Hare Krishna, and welcome to Seeing Through Scriptures, where we dive deep into ancient wisdom to shed light on the challenges of our everyday lives. Today, we'll be discussing a subject that often causes confusion in society: sexual relationships and their true purpose. We will explore how understanding this topic through the lens of Krishna consciousness can help us live a more fulfilling and spiritual life. Let's begin by addressing a very important point. Sex is not meant for mere enjoyment, it is a higher purpose to bring children into this world. When we engage in sex simply for pleasure, we open the door to sin and suffering. Illicit sex leads to unwanted consequences like unplanned pregnancies and even abortions. As the scriptures say, these actions are witnessed by the demigods, and the results follow us not just in this life but in the next. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, Text 9 tells us, sometimes, as if blinded by the dust of a whirlwind, the conditioned soul sees the beauty of the opposite sex, which is called pramada. Being thus bewildered, he is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. He thus becomes almost blind with lusty desire and disobeys the rules and regulations governing sex life. He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by different demigods, and he enjoys illicit sex in the dead of night, not seeing the future punishment awaiting him. This highlights the importance of following Krishna consciousness, which helps us control sinful desires and live a life free from suffering. It is also essential to understand that sexual pleasure is a gift from God. It helps people overlook the difficulties of family life and remain united. But this pleasure should never be misused. When people forget the spiritual purpose behind it, problems arise. As the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 8 says, from the Lord's genitals originate water, semen, generatives, rains, and the procreators. His genitals are the cause of a pleasure that counteracts the distress of begetting. So, while sexual pleasure has its place, it must be approached responsibly and guided by spiritual values, not just for the sake of enjoyment. Many people, especially those who, without spiritual knowledge, think that sensual pleasure is the ultimate happiness. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 45, gives a very apt comparison. It says, sex life is compared to the rubbing of two hands to relieve an itch. Grahamedis, so called Grihasthas, who have no spiritual knowledge, think that this itching is the greatest platform of happiness, although actually it is a source of distress. The Kripanas, the fools who are just the opposite of Brahmanas, are not satisfied by repeated sensuous enjoyment. Those who are dhira, however, who are sober and who tolerate this itching are not subjected to the sufferings of fools and rascals. This shows that those who chase after sensual pleasure are never truly satisfied. It's like an itch that only brings temporary relief, and afterward the suffering returns. But those who are sober minded, who understand the fleeting nature of such pleasures, are free from this suffering. One of the best examples of how uncontrolled desires can ruin a person is the story of Ajamil. He was once a respectable Brahmana, but after falling in love with a prostitute, he lost all his spiritual qualities. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, text 21 to 22 narrates: in the city known as Kanyakubja, there was a Brahmana named Ajamil who married a prostitute, maid servant, and lost all his Brahmanical qualities because of the association of that low class woman. This fallen Brahmana, Ajamil, gave trouble to others by arresting them, by cheating them in gambling, or by directly plundering them. This was the way he earned his livelihood and maintained his wife and children. Ajamila's story is a powerful reminder that associating with low influences can strip us of our spiritual integrity and lead us into deeper sin. This is exactly why there are rules regarding sex, food, and intoxication. They exist not to restrict us, but to protect us from falling into illusion and suffering. Even when certain acts like sex within marriage or sacrifices are allowed in the scriptures, they are ultimately meant to guide us toward renunciation. As the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, Text 11 explains, in this material world, the conditioned soul is always inclined to sex, meat eating, and intoxication. Therefore, religious scriptures never actually encourage such activities. Although the scriptural injunctions provide for sex through sacred marriage, for meat eating through sacrificial offerings, and for intoxication through the acceptance of ritual cups of wine, such ceremonies are meant for the ultimate purpose of renunciation. This is a reminder that the ultimate goal is to transcend material desires, not indulge in them. King Pururava explains how he got so much entangled and got illusioned. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 3. One should never associate with materialists, those dedicated to gratifying their genitals and bellies. By following them, one falls into the deepest pit of darkness, just like a blind man who follows another blind man. We also have the story of King Pururava, who was entangled in material desire. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 7 to 10. King Aila, as he is also known, shares his regret. King Aila said, alas, just see the extent of my delusion. This goddess was embracing me and held my neck in her grip. My heart was so polluted by lust that I had no idea how my life was passing. That lady cheated me so much that I did not even see the rising or setting of the sun. Alas, for so many years I passed my days in vain. Alas, although I am supposed to be a mighty emperor, the crown jewel of all kings on this earth, just see how my bewilderment has rendered me a toy animal in the hands of a woman. Although I was a powerful lord with great opulence, that woman gave me up as if I were no more than an insignificant blade of grass. And still, naked and without shame, I followed her, crying out to her like a madman. This story shows the depth of illusion that material desires can create, turning even powerful kings into helpless souls lost in passion. What is the use of big education if the mind is stolen by women? This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 12. What is the use of a big education or the practice of austerities and renunciation? And what is the use of studying religious scriptures, of living in solitude and silence, if, after all, one's mind is stolen by women? Example, in the recent news, we have seen a doctor from Kolkata, the rape case, which involves the tragic rape and murder of a trainee doctor at Arjikar Medical College in Kolkata. This was leading to a widespread protest by the medical community. So, what is the point that doctor has done a lot of education, but still has done such kind of a act, raping a girl? So, there's no point if you are done so much of education just going behind the women. What is the point? And this leads to an important truth: lust can never be fully satisfied. Even after enjoying all the pleasures of life, the desire only grows stronger, as Pururava admits from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 14. Even after I had served the so called nectar of the lips of Urvasi for so many years, my lusty desires kept rising again and again within my heart and were never satisfied. Just like a fire that can never be extinguished by the oblations of ghee poured into its flames. This is why no amount of material enjoyment can bring lasting happiness. In the end, the only solution is to surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. King Pururava realized this too, as he said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 15. Who but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lies beyond material perception and is the Lord of self satisfied sages, can possibly save my consciousness, which has been stolen by a prostitute? Only the Lord can save us from the grip of material desires. This whole issue arises from our ignorance of our true spiritual nature. We are so deeply entangled in material life that we fail to see reality. As Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 17 explains, how can I blame her from my trouble when I myself am ignorant of my real spiritual nature? I did not control my senses, and so I am like a person who mistakenly sees a harmless rope as a snake. This false perception keeps us trapped in the cycle of desire and illusion. They are simply false covering. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 18. What is this polluted body anyway, so filthy and full of bad odors? I was attracted by the fragrance and beauty of a woman's body, but what are those so called attractive features? They are simply a false covering created by illusion. Finally, the material body, which we are so attached to, is simply a temporary vessel. We don't even know who truly owns it, yet we become attached to it as if it's the most important thing. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 26, Text 19 to Text 20 says, one can never decide whose property the body actually is. Does it belong to one's parents, who have given birth to it, to one's wife who gives its pleasure, or to one's employer who orders the body around? Is it the property of the funeral fires or of the dogs and jackals who may ultimately devour it? Is it the property of the indwelling soul who partakes in its happiness and distress, or does the body belong to the intimate friends who encourage and help it? Although a man never definitely ascertains the proprietor of the body, he becomes most attached to it. The material body is a polluted material form heading toward a lowly destination. Yet, when a man's stares at the face of a woman, he thinks, what a good looking lady, what a charming nose she's got, and see her beautiful smile. This attachment blinds us to the higher spiritual truth. And as Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antyalila, chapter 6, text 20, 227 reminds us, one who is subservient to the tongue and who thus goes here and there, devoted to the genitals and the belly, cannot attain Krishna. Only by surrendering these desires can one attain true spiritual liberation. So, this is the final statement. If you want to overcome the lust desire, then we have to surrender to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Then only we can overcome. Thank you for joining us today as we explore the depths of desire and the consequences of lust through the teachings of the scriptures. It's important to remember that while the allure of the material world may be strong, we have the power to choose a path of spiritual awakening and awareness. Let us strive to remain vigilant against the temptations that cloud our judgment and seek refuge in the wisdom of Krishna consciousness. If you found this discussion enlightening, please share it with others and join us next time for more insights on living a spiritual, fulfilling life. Until then, stay mindful and connected to the divine. Hare Krishna.